Let me introduce you this guest who's on my right. The cameras won't pan to him right now. His name is Kal Penn Modi. For starters, he's not related to our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, but he is related to the United States President, Mr. Barack Obama. And more on that, to the gentleman sitting on my right, that's Kal Penn. Yeah?
Hello.
Please.
How are you, man?
Good. How are you? Nice
Good. Good to
show.
see you.
And
thanks for having me.
So tell me how you related to Mr. Barack Obama, because when I Google Kal Penn, it shows a lot of things. You have so many feathers on your head.
Thank you. Yeah, there are two ways to look at it. Either I get really bored very quickly, and I just have to occupy my time, or I kind of like multitasking. Right. I remember when I was in high school. Actually, I was really interested in international development, global politics, public service, and then also film and theater. And my guidance counselor at the time, I remember going to her and she said, "What do you want to do when you graduate?" And I said, I think I want to pursue film and or political science or something in public service. She goes, well, you have to pick one. Like, I don't really want to pick one. I feel like you don't have to. Why do you have to pick one? She said, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And then I'm like, really? That's what you're telling a 17-year-old child? You're just shattering his dreams like at 17? So I obviously rejected that, and I thought, well, look, if I'm lucky enough to do all the things that I want to do, then why not? Let me try and see how I can make that work. So I started as an actor, but what you're referencing is a couple of years ago during our 2007-2008 presidential election, there was actually a writer's strike in Hollywood. So screenwriters couldn't write. And I was on a TV show called House at the time, playing a doctor. And after our scripts were shot, we had nothing else to shoot. And the election was right around the corner, and I had read, at that point, Senator Obama's books. Thought he had a really interesting story. I had the chance to meet him, and I thought, why not go volunteer for this guy and see what happens? And he was, at that point, everybody said he's never going to win, and he was down 40 points in the polls. And I said, well, screw it, who cares? I really like him. I like what he stands for, and let's see what happens. And so, over the next 2 years, as he continued to win primary elections and then became the nominee for his party, and then the next thing you know, he wins the presidency, and there was an opportunity to work in the White House for a couple of years. And like, what do you say? No, sorry, I have to make another stoner movie. I mean, obviously yeah, I say that all the time. That's like my line, because that was literally what went through my head. You get a phone call like that saying, here's an opportunity to serve your country, and the thought that goes through your head is exactly that. There's no feasible way to say no to something like that, right?
I mean, you're proposing this job to a Gujarati. Gujaratis don't say no to anything.
Well, but Gujaratis say no to things that don't pay well.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And so my dad called me.
Volunteer, man.
This is what my dad was like. He started laughing when I told him that I was taking time off. It wasn't a career change, right? It was a sabbatical, so I knew that I was going to do it for a year or two. But I remember he started laughing, and I said, "Why are you laughing?" And he was like, "Because you're finally in a stable job on a TV show. You have a paycheck every week." I'm sure the fact that I was playing a doctor didn't hurt.
Okay.
And you're going from that to making no money working in government. Like, what do you want me to say? I'm just laughing. So. But they were very supportive. I mean, he was half kidding. Yeah, I wonder how my Gujaratiness plays into that. I don't know.
Do you want some butter cookies?
I'm okay right now, but I'll probably get in there.
Kal Penn is allergic to nuts.
It's true.
Don't take this in any other way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Almonds, cashews.
This is not a dialogue from Harold Kumar. I wish it was.
I'll try and put that in the next one.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about Harold and Kumar. It's more like, it's the best franchisee movie that you've been a part of.
It's thank you.
I mean,
thank you.
I think my favorite is the Escape from Guantanamo Bay.
Okay, second one.
Yeah. Did Mr. Mr. President has seen this? No?
I have not figured out the best time to ask that question.
Okay, that's very nice.
I feel like there's, I understand that you're dealing with ISIS, but have you seen my movie? I would love to know the answer to that. But those movies actually started out, we shot the first one in 2004.
Right.
So 10 years ago this year.
God, that's a decade.
Yeah. I know.
Cheers to
Crazy,
that.
right? Thanks, man. Thank you. And we thought the script was funny, but it was really made for a really low budget. There was a company.
It did well as well.
It did so badly. So this thing comes out, we think it's funny, we hope it does well, and it just tanks at the box office. And it lasted, I think, a week in theaters. And all of the feedback that we got was, well, I guess America's not ready for an Indian and Asian guy to, be leads in a movie. And we're like, really? That's what you're boiling this down to? It's not bad marketing. It's not, So it was a really rough couple of months after that, because you start believing that, well, maybe that's true. And then the movie comes out on DVD, and all of a sudden, kids are like buying it for each other, renting it on DVD, and the next thing you know, you realize this thing is really catching on just because of word of mouth. And so it was very clear that this archaic system that Hollywood uses of how to market and track movies was not working for this film. They didn't know what to do with it. The audience, thank God, liked it. I mean, John Cho, who plays Harold, he and I feel really indebted, I think, to all these fans who went out and bought it and gave us a chance to do a second and third one, and they really gave us careers,
They paid. They didn't download the movie, so please do not.
Well, the Americans paid. I've talked to some people here.
Okay.
I have not met an Indian who's paid for the movie, but you know what? That's
Change
okay.
of topic. We are not talking.
Yeah.
We are not talking this. But this is, it's. I mean, you work with Neil Patrick Harris as well.
He's awesome.
And look at the personality. Look at the split side of this. Yeah, you've done The Namesake, which is one of my favorite movies, and I've just seen Bhopal, A Prayer for Rain. And on the flip side, you're doing something absolutely diverse. Hardcore, serious subjects, and then, you're tickling a funny bone.
That's what I love about storytelling, though. Like when you decide to be an actor, at least for me, one of the big driving forces is I want to tell stories that haven't necessarily been told. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily always going to make somebody cry or laugh, but being able to do both of those things together, I think, is the magic that draws people to cinema and TV, frankly. And if I can do those things, I feel very, very lucky.
But ever thought giving a run for the money to Mr. Russell Peters?
Russell is awesome. Russell is incredible. I wish I had the guts to do stand-up. I am so happy for him. He literally sells out like huge stadiums all over the world. You know this. And I haven't seen him in years. I met him years ago and was the nicest, coolest guy, hilarious in real life, so warm. I'm like, I want to do I want to do a buddy movie with him. I'm going to put that out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the first on the show.
Yeah.
Exclusive. Yeah. The buddy movie with Russell Peters.
Yeah, why not?
That'll be. But you know what? Not all stand-up, and correct me if I'm wrong, not all stand-up comedians can be good actors. I mean, there has been, Sir late Robin Williams was, and not all good actors can be stand-up.
Exactly.
So how much of a difference is there when you are, standing up on the stage in front of the live audience and you're doing a comedy?
I don't know, because I haven't done it, but I think I'm really in awe of stand-up comics, because I think you have to.
You've been to a show?
Oh yeah. And I'm in awe of stand-up comics because they write their own stuff. There is automatically a vulnerability, I think, to any stand-up comic, because it comes from a very personal place. It's almost like songwriters, singer-songwriters. If you're like John Legend, if you're writing your own stuff and you're singing it and you're doing it beautifully in a way that resonates with the entire world. I mean, there's something so intimate about that, right? I think stand-up comics are kind of the same way. You're based on experiences or observations that you've actually made. I'm in awe of people that can do that.
Kal Penn has never been. I haven't read. When I Googled a controversy, there's no girl in your life. I don't know whether you're married or not, but you're happy, single, ready to mingle. But there's nothing. There's no lady love.
There's nothing that you see online, because I like to keep. Here are things you won't see online. You won't see my dating life online. You won't see my favorite taco spot.
The Taco Bell.
It's not Taco Bell. You won't see pictures of my parents. Like, I like to keep.
A few things.
I like to keep the things that are private, and then I like to, all the dick jokes that you want to tell about Harold and Kumar, I'm happy to tell. But you know what I mean? Like, I sort of like, and it's based on, when I first started out as an actor, I was reading interviews with, and I might be getting exactly who wrong, but I think it was Tom Hanks, and I think it was a Tom Hanks interview, where basically the point is, it was older actors that were saying, with media changing and the way that things are catching on, they like that when they started their careers, they had their families, they did whatever they right, and then they did their movies because it allowed them to play characters that they wouldn't have been able to play. And I think they cite their kids. Even now, these are topics of interviews. Imagine if, I'm so glad I didn't have Twitter or Instagram when I was 15 years old.
True.
Just because it's forever.
You're in the same boat, bro.
Like forever. You know what I mean? Think about, I think we're probably 5 years away from just seeing every drunken, insane picture of somebody from when they were 20 years old when they're running for office.
Trust me.
You know what I mean?
Trust me, yeah.
Like, and I'm really looking forward to that, because then you can really vote for the people for the right reasons.
So the question to be asked to you should be, how much do you pay the paparazzi to stay away from you, man?
I don't do anything that warrants attention. I think. I don't know. I don't go clubbing. If I'm gonna have more than a beer, I'll probably do it at home or at a friend's apartment. You know what I mean? Like I know. And I also don't. One of the things I like about acting, like I said, was the storytelling aspect, right?
I would say the one thing I like is beer pong. Sad.
The one thing I like is the free blow. No, the one thing I like is the storytelling, and so I think it depends, right? Right? You have friends. I have friends who really enjoy the attention, and I remember that weirded me out when I finally started working on things that people would actually watch. I'm like, this feels weird when people come up to you on the street or when somebody's asking you questions about things. And then a friend of mine was like, you realize that you've chosen to be an actor, right? Like that sort of comes with the territory. And I thought, yeah, that's right. That's a good point. I guess there are just different types of, oddly, a lot of actors don't like attention in your real life, and then oddly, a lot of actors love, getting wasted and having pictures of you throwing up on the sidewalk, which
so when is the
thankfully I don't think I have any pictures of me throwing up on the sidewalk.
So when's the next installment of Harold and Kumar? Should we? It was last year, right? No.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
So we're doing
Christmas thing, right?
Christmas, yeah. We're doing an animated version right now for a network in the States called Adult Swim, and we'll find out, I think, in the next month or two whether we shot the pilot already, and we'll find out in the next month or two if we actually get a series out of it or not.
Dude, this should be like it should beat Harry Potter, man.
I hope we get to do it. The crazy thing is, I mean, it's been 10 years, right? And you saw from the first movie to the third one, these characters go from being stoners right out of college to now having families of their own. And it's crazy to me that the audience accepts that they're willing to let us grow with them. And it's been a lot of fun to do. So I always joke, like 99% seriously, that I could be 100 years old doing Harold and Kumar 40 and be happy just because I love that character so much. Playing Kumar is infinitely way cooler than I will ever be. So playing a character like that is a lot of fun.
Try playing a Patel, and you'll know the difference. Okay, moving on to a more not so serious, but yes, it is. Bhopal, A Prayer for Rain,
Yeah.
your latest film is out. I think it's one of the most brilliant thriller dramas I have seen.
Thank you.
Based on true events. Kal, I want to ask you a question. The atrocity, and as we all know, it is the world's biggest or largest industrial disaster that took place in Bhopal, and like almost 18,000, 20,000, probably even the counts are fake for all you know, it's just building every day. What went through your head when you read that script or the character that you were playing? That dude, I mean, I don't want to be emotional, because there's a thing where an actor gets emotional to the script, and there's a thing that he should not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When I first read the script, I think obviously I knew some of the background of what actually happened, right? There have been countless documentaries and a couple of fictionalized adaptations that have been made over the last 30 years. So I knew that. And I read the script and I thought, okay, this is a script that I immediately appeals to me, for the storytelling reason, right? I do think this is a story that should be told. I would like to have a part in telling it, but then also selfishly, the acting exercise of it, right? Playing an Indian journalist 30 years ago is not something that comes across your desk every day. So it was actually that kind of a conflict of emotions where you, at the end of the day, you read that script and you go, okay, there are selfish reasons for doing it as an actor. There are also reasons of the material itself that make you want to do it. Can I do justice to it or not? And then I said, let me just, Ravi Kumar, who was the writer-director, was in LA. I said, let me at least sit down with him and hear his vision for the project, because the last thing you want to do is, you like the script, but you start shooting it and you realize that you're working with people who don't share the vision that you had or don't take it seriously or whatever. So sat down with Ravi, and I've never seen a guy more passionate about the material that he knew was an uphill battle to tell. So it was really, and I remember so vividly that conversation that we had where he said, he'd been working on the script for 6 years, 8 years, something like that. He was very passionate about telling the story. He told me all the reasons why. I knew the background of it. And so that's kind of what went into, I guess, the decision-making process.
You play the journalist called Motwani, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how he dresses, yeah?
I love it.
I think it's a period setting, but it's just the way he comes at it.
Here's the deal with the character. Excuse me.
And it's a confident playboy. Sometimes
extremely confident.
Dude.
So the thing with Motwani was partially based on a real guy named Keswani, who was a real journalist who tried very hard to get the town to believe that this was there was a dangerous plant in Bhopal, right? But it's clearly fictionalized also, right? He's not exactly the guy that you see in our adaptation. And so there was an opportunity to have some fun with that. He's also the kind of journalist who nobody believes because he sells really salacious headlines. So all of his headlines throughout the film, and part of this was just taken from, there's no shortage of serious journalists, and there's no shortage of journalists that like to manipulate headlines. So he's a guy who likes to manipulate those headlines, but then at the same time, he cares very deeply for this town. He really believes that something bad could happen, and he tries to tell that story, and it's almost sort of a boy who cried wolf kind of situation, where nobody necessarily believes him right away because of the fact that he's lied in the past to the town. So I thought, look, just based on my background, playing an Indian journalist, the fact that it was a period piece, the fact that it was such an awful disaster that I don't think you can focus on enough in terms of storytelling. It just seemed like the right fit.
Have you met that journalist?
No, not yet. I would really like to.
Oh, he's still like...
Yeah. He's
alive and
he's alive and kicking.
I'm not talking to you as an actor now. I'm talking to you as a citizen, and you've done enough for the U.S. government, and you'll keep on doing it. What do you think as a citizen of the country that was it right? Was it wrong?
I think, I had opinions going into it, and I don't think those opinions have necessarily changed. It was just researching a movie like this, fictionalized adaptation, obviously, but you read articles, you read a lot of the legalese around it, and I think you touched on something that I'm glad people are talking about, which is how incredibly complex something like this is. Yeah. That there are obviously issues of international trade, there are issues of morality, whether somebody should or shouldn't be extradited if something happened on your watch, government corruption on many sides, corruption in settlements that were offered or weren't offered, court cases, the shadiness that unfortunately existed on almost every level is jarring if you don't know the story and don't know that background. But I think the benefit of talking about it the way that you were kind enough to ask that question is a lot of things have changed in terms of workplace safety. A lot of things have not. And so can these conversations prevent something like that from happening again? I hope so. Not putting my actor hat on, obviously, just as an audience member, as a human being. So I don't know. I'm not an expert in all of the background. I think but the big takeaway was that, all of us in some way are culpable for something like this if we're not voting, if we're not participating, if we're not standing up for something or holding people accountable.
It's an endless debate, right?
That's what I'm saying.
The 2 points of arguments that were kept for this disaster was the worker sabotage and the corporate negligence.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's points where I want to believe that the corporate negligence was there, and then you want to believe how did the water enter the tank, and how this whole mess up happened, and was it the workers that did it? So I don't think no one's going to find the true answers to it.
I don't disagree with that. I think, but the other issue is, this happens all the time. Why are certain factories allowed to exist in certain countries and not in others? So why is there no enforceability of certain environmental laws? Where's the, at what point does climbing the economic ladder trump worker safety or the price of a life? The fact that you can even put a price on a life is bizarre, a bizarre concept. But these are all calculations that are made. Governments make them, companies make them, and then people decide where they want to put plants like this. And even that conversation still happens today to varying degrees. It's a very tough conversation to have. So I have not yet been to a screening of the movie here in India, but the ones that we've been to in the States, it is really interesting, especially a Western audience that doesn't necessarily know that this has happened, right? I think we knew about it growing up as Americans because our parents moved from India, and when it happened, you saw it in the news, but you were explained exactly what happened. But for a lot of Western audiences, they don't necessarily know that this happened, so there's this shock when people leave the theater going, I had no idea this even happened. How could this have happened? How come there was no accountability on behalf of the local or the Indian government, and how come there's no accountability on behalf of Union Carbide? How could something like that? And seeing that, but you know what I mean? All you have to do is read a couple of articles and you get a sense of how complicated it is. And I didn't think that our little movie would spark that kind of reaction, to be perfectly honest, because I just thought people know this story already.
I think you're right, because I don't know what reactions did you receive after the screening in the States from the people who've seen there. But over here, they take it very seriously. It's like how Watergate happened in the US.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened to felony, man? What happened to a term called homicide?
Yeah. People were definitely upset.
Can we call CSI Miami? What's his name? I forgot his name. What's his name? What's the character's name in CSI Miami? The guy who
I know who you're talking. The glasses, right?
I think I should talk to Anderson now. Okay, you know what? This is a pretty serious debate. Sometimes we'll have to break in and become the Kumars and the Harold.
You can do both.
Yeah, we can do both. Ever tried Googling the name Gogol?
I have not. What happens? I mean, I assume Nikolai Gogol comes up, right?
I'm sure something comes up. It's like, I sometimes feel, and it was just an irony, I was just laughing in my head yesterday when I said, you hated the name Gogol in the film The Namesake, right?
Yeah.
You told Irfan Khan, the character, who was my father, saying, I don't like this name, man. I'm being bullied in the school. Yeah. And then there's this name called Kal Penn Modi. Hey, mom, listen, I hate this name. Can we break into Kal Penn?
That's not how it happened. You want to, the way that, it's funny that the comparison is always made to The Namesake, which is why when when we were shooting it, Mira and I were talking, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if I had two credits at the end? So I think Gogol Ganguly is Kal Penn and Nikhil Ganguly is Kal Penn Modi. I can't remember exactly, but it's one of the two. No, mine is much less innocuous, I think. When I started working as an actor, when I started trying to work as an actor, there were many a night similar to Harold and Kumar where I'd just be getting food with college friends at like 4 in the morning. And I had read something about how a lot of actors have screen names. So a lot of actors registered with the Screen Actors Guild have screen names, and it seems sort of obvious, right? So Whoopi Goldberg's real name is not Whoopi Goldberg, that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, well maybe I should have one. And so it started as a totally random 4 a.m. conversation, and then all my friends were like, yeah, you totally should. What about Cal Pacino? Ha 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 ha. I'm like, oh man. So for about an hour, I was berated with every iteration of my name, and just like, Samir becomes Sam or Joseph becomes Joe, whatever. So Kal Penn was always Cal every now and then growing up. So look, well, what if you just split your name? I was like, great, let's try it. And I had just gotten new headshots taken. So slapped that name on the headshots. Auditions went up. I will never know if it was a better agent that I had just hired, the name, the headshots, the combination thereof. Who knows? But the irony of that compared to The Namesake is once you start working as an actor with a specific name, like even if it's just a little bit part, you need to be able to capitalize on that. So once you start working, you can't really change your name or change it back. So I'm one of those weird actors who has a screen name, but it's not my legal name because I've never legally changed my name.
That's funny.
Unlike the Nikhil. So I could understand Nikhil and Gogol a little bit, but he was a lot more into the name thing than I was.
10 years down the line.
Yeah.
What would you be more, reminiscing? Would it be The Namesake or would it be Bhopal or Prayer for Rain?
That's a good question. I think the Namesake has, and probably will always be, the thing that was just the most incredible experience start to finish. And part of the reason is because of the book that it was based on. And I was a huge fan of Jhumpa Lahiri's writing for years before the Namesake became a movie. If you want to go even further back, John Cho, who plays Harold, is the reason that I learned of Jhumpa Lahiri, because he's a huge, very avid reader, and he gifted me Interpreter of Maladies when we were shooting one of the Harold and Kumar movies and said, read this. When the Namesake came out, we both read it at the same time. I actually tried to get the rights to it, found out Mira had gotten the rights to it already, then began this whole long process of trying to audition for it, like begging her to let me go in and read. So start to finish, it was just an incredible experience overall. I don't think you can compare it to something like Bhopal, because the movie Bhopal for me was the exact opposite experience, in the sense that it's a character that I had no relation or background to before. It wasn't based on a book, right? It was based on a real guy and Ravi's incredible interpretation of it. So the approach and the exercise was literally couldn't have been farther.
Very different.
Technically very different, and also I didn't know that he was going to speak Hindi until I arrived in India. So, like, nahi, hum Gujarati mein baat kari shaku, but not Hindi, right? So, and I don't know how we missed this. I mean, I know how we missed it, right? So all the conversations with Ravi leading up to the film, the script was incredible, all the phone calls, the emails. I get to Hyderabad, go to the rehearsal the first day, read the scene, and Ravi and one of our assistant directors are kind of whispering to each other. We're on a couch just like this, we're just reading through. He goes, "Acha, abhi Hindi mein." I'm like, "Huh? I don't speak Hindi, you know that." He's like, "What? I thought you do." I'm like, "No, I speak Gujarati." He's like, "So you can't do this in Hindi?" I'm like, "Dude, I've had this script for 2 months. If you would have told me 2 months ago, easily I could have done this in Hindi."
Yeah, change the name from Motwani to Motabai.
So, right, anything. So I actually talked to him, I said, in all seriousness, should I like go home? Like, shouldn't you hire an actor who speaks Hindi and can do justice to this? And he was like, you don't think you're up for it? I'm like, oh, worst thing to tell an actor. Of course I'm up for it.
Of course you are.
So we had a dialect and language coach come down, and luckily it's similar enough to Gujarati, but it was an incredible, awesome challenge. I mean, I loved it. I hope you guys will be able to tell me if I pulled it off or not with your comments on Twitter saying, "That was awesome, you sounded Indian," or "I didn't believe you for a second." Curious to see which one it is.
Talk something good about the producer, man.
Do
you have check pending?
No. The second deal is pending. No,
That's it.
no. Look, you're right to talk about that. Not just the producers, but producers, financiers, distributors, the people that back a movie like this. This is not a movie that is easy to sell. I think,
No, I think you're
from
right,
a business perspective.
You
Okay.
know why? Because I just read in the morning papers that the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
These movies that are made with mediocre budgets.
Yeah.
They are the ones who finally go and become cults.
Yeah.
Because a lot of effort, a lot of positivity is being put into it. And I think you guys have done a marvelous job, including the producers and the directors.
Thank you. I can't take credit for any of it, because as an actor, you literally show up, you do your job, and then you leave. The real labor of love are the writers, the producers, and the people that actually back the film, right? This is a movie that you know the ending to. All right, so it's not the kind of movie where it's a cliffhanger and you're watching it and you'll pay your money to go see it. This is a movie where you know the ending, you know why it's an important story to tell, and you still choose to see it because of the way in which it's told. And that's all the writer, director, and producers. If they didn't have that passion and that faith in a project like this, you'd shoot it and then that would be it. It wouldn't even come out on DVD. So I think that says a lot about the caliber of people, Ravi Kumar, Ravi Walia, Sahara, all the distributors in the other territories that are working on the film. It's an incredible group of people to work with.
And the last question to you is, was there a fanboy in you when you met Martin?
Oh, of course. Of course. I remain a huge West Wing fan. So yes, Martin, huge fanboy. Are you kidding? Look, I gave Ravi Walia and Ravi Kumar all the credit, but when Ravi Kumar said, "I think Martin Sheen might be playing Warren Anderson," I was like, "Great, no, I'll do it." It's like, "Do you want to hear about Motwani?" I was like, "No, not really. I'm going to go ahead and say yes to this movie." I'm exaggerating, but yeah, I'm a huge Martin Sheen fan.
Okay, and what about Mischa Barton?
Mischa's
She's
incredible, yeah.
Things in the best.
Yeah, no, she worked with my friend Olivia Wilde, who I was on House with. They were on the OC together, so I'd already heard incredible things about her beforehand. I have to say, the cast, it was a really global cast, right? We have people from UK, Germany, US, and India. And to work with such an incredible group of people who are coming in, and we're not all playing, like I'm not playing an American, right? So even that stretch, Mischa's playing a French woman. So even that kind of juxtaposition was really, really cool. I felt really lucky to be a part of it.
And one last cliche question to end this.
Yeah, great.
Please. And I'm Gujarati. I'll be a bit...
He's ending with a Gujarati cliche, apparently. Yeah. Let's see where this goes.
Okay.
Kacho papad? Pako papad, barabar. Yeah.
But Rajpal Yadav,
yeah.
Tanishta Chatterjee, Tanishta's worked a lot in Britain, in British.
Yeah.
Rajpal's first, stint with the West.
Yep.
These two actors, what do you take from Indian actors as well? Because you haven't worked with any, right?
No, I haven't. And, I had a Thabu Irfan, of course. A lot, and the style of doing business here is very different, especially when you're shooting a film. So I learned a lot from them, especially Rajpal, where we're just used to a different way of working, and to sit down with Rajpal and here's how his approach is, and he was also very, very kind to me with all the Hindi stuff, where I would ask him, like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this the right way? And he's like, and he actually said, and this is sort of universal actor speak. I remember he goes, are you confident in who this character is? And I said, yeah, of course. I'm just not confident in the words. He goes, if you think you're not confident in the words, then it'll undermine your entire character, and he's not going to seem as confident as you've prepared him to be. Like that's actually a good point. I just kind of have to shake it off and dive in, and if I'm doing it wrong, somebody will tell me. And that was that kind of confidence, I think, especially given all the multitude of roles that a guy like Rajpal has played. It made sense when he was explaining that kind of thing. It was awesome.
Is the producer staring at us?
Yes.
Yeah. Shall we cut it?
Yeah.